Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Mogwai Podcast with me, Amanda Stanley. In this first episode, Stuart Braithwaite of the band talks to Every Country's Son producer, Dave Fridmann, about the differences between working with the band 16 years ago and now.
I think you guys were more prepared to get to the final result. You guys were very well rehearsed. You had a very clear idea what was going to happen before setting foot in the studio.
And I sit down with Stuart and fellow bandmate Barry Burns at Barry's flat in Glasgow ahead of their tour to talk about the process of making the new record and also their preparations for taking it on the road this autumn.
When we got to Tarbox with Dave, he just got us to set up in a room.
He sat behind a desk. I was so nervous when that happened. I was like, this is like an exam.
Yeah, he did.
Like, he just sat and he just looked around and we badly played songs that weren't very good. He was like, alright. And I think all he wanted to know was, that's a loud one, that's a quiet one, that's got loads of electronics in it.
Yeah.
That's all he wanted to know.
Be sure to hit the subscribe button to keep up to date with all future episodes as they drop, and head to mogwai.co.uk for a full list of tour dates. Now here's the interview Stuart did with Dave Friedman back in the summer.
How are you, Dave? I've not spoken to you in a little while.
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm alright. This is weird. What's new? Are you busy? Who's in just now?
I'm at home at the moment, but
Because it's morning time.
Yeah, I just finished up the new MGMT.
Amazing.
Yeah,
And that
very exciting.
It went swimmingly.
Of course, never any problems.
I'll cut to the chase, and yeah, we're doing a bunch of podcasts. We're just kind of around our records. I was just going to ask you a bunch of things. Getting back to the album, there had been let me count this, a 16-year gap between you making a Mogwai record.
Yeah, too long.
Yeah, was it a happy 16 years?
No, I missed you guys terribly.
We missed you too. It was surreal experience because I hadn't been back because my ex-wife's family live not too far away from you. I would always go and visit them.
Yeah.
So I hadn't been to the studio at all. So it kind of like felt like going back to the scene of a crime. and it's a very minor crime. But yeah, it was quite surreal. A miserable 16 years for you, spent mostly weeping and
Yes.
staring at the good old days of the recording sessions of Come On Die Young and Rock Action, but you managed to fill those lonely years somehow.
Yes, I did a few things in between.
I'm glad. We worried about you, but no, that's good. And yeah, when we decided to come back, it was pretty exciting because we had a blast making those records. We really did.
Yeah, me too.
And I think they're pretty good records too. It wasn't just about the good times. Oh, this is going to be a shambles. Here's Alan. Alan, I'm doing a podcast thing in here. Is that a nightmare?
I'm going to be quiet.
That's cool. Yeah, just ignore me. I'll try and not say horrible things about you. I've got
At least for the moment.
Yeah, I've got a new car that's got one of those kind of like hands-free phone things that are just like every time someone calls, I guess there's a bit of etiquette to tell them that like you're on hands-free.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're on speakerphone here.
Yeah, so like just starting every conversation with, I hope you're not phoning me up to tell me how much you hate Elizabeth. And thankfully that no one has been so far.
So, well, because you give them notice. That's the key.
Yeah, and they're like, yeah, I'm calling to say how much I hate your girlfriend, and I'm glad she's there right this second, so I can say it right to her face. Anyway, that was a tangent. I think this was weird. It kind of, but in a good way. When I talk about kind of going back to the scene of the crime, I guess the difference between being 25 and being 41 isn't something that you normally think about ever. But when you return to somewhere that you've spent a lot of time when you were 25, and then return when you're 16 years later, it definitely feels Well, you notice the difference.
Sure. Absolutely.
And I guess what I kind of thought about when we went back is because you're a little bit older than us, but you not an awful lot older than us. We're closer now. In fact, we are older than you were when we first went there.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It is kind of crazy, and it's kind of, I don't know. I guess it's a little bit of the rehearsal going on. The
super ego in full force.
I think we're actually using. Yeah, there's 3 of them running. Oh, and Barry made me get that H9 pedal as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, which is quite exciting. I was reluctant at first because it seemed complicated, but yeah, it's worth it. It's worth the hassle. It's worth having it.
Yeah, once you program it, it's definitely worth having.
It's awesome.
It's accessible. Yeah.
But thinking about the kind of the context of where we all are / were in our lives, you seem like such a grown-up when when we came to make those records in like whatever 1998 and 2000. And
yeah, in comparison, maybe.
Yeah, but I still don't feel like a grown-up. Do you?
Sure.
Do you feel like a grown-up?
Not entirely.
Yeah.
No. I mean, there's I suppose there's some measure of responsibility, but
yeah.
But no.
No.
It's well, I mean, we don't do a grown-up job.
That's true. That is true, and I think that is one of the best things about music. And I suppose you kind of sometimes take a step back and you think, well, yeah, I kind of am a grown-up because I have to do grown-up things and have to.
Well, you've got a car with hands-free available now. Of course you're a grown-up. But,
yeah, but I also have a lot of skateboards, so I'm kind of like I'm balanced. I'm doing the careful balance.
Yeah, how many figurines can a person have? Well, all of them is the answer.
Yeah, that is true. I have resisted buying a Laserdisc player though, which was something I got a real look of disdain when I suggested this to my good lady. Like, she's like, "You've got enough pieces of shit that gather dust that you never use." Oh, another tangent, but I actually got. When we went out on that did those shows after the recording, I got you the original Star Wars on Laserdisc. I need to find a way to get that
awesome.
to. Yeah, I should, for listeners here, because I completely forgot anyone was listening to this conversation.
Right, yeah, of course.
At Tarbox Studio, there is an incredible collection of Laserdiscs and a Laserdisc player. And that was kind of how we spent our evenings, largely watching really amazing movies of the 70s, 80s, and 90s before they stopped making Laserdiscs. So, Dave, is this the biggest gap between recording a band you've had, or have you had similar instances of recording a band when they were barely pubescent to recording them when they're all...
I don't think so. I think that's got to be the biggest gap. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny too, because I always think part of like what we pride ourselves, I suppose, on what we're doing out here is that we have so much repeated artists coming. You show up here and then it's like, oh well, we establish a rapport and then we keep going and we keep going and we keep going. And so, it certainly always was like an unfortunate thing to me that we didn't get back in the studio again more quickly.
Yeah. And I guess that probably would have applied to us. I just think distance, and maybe when we started playing an awful lot of shows that kind of disappearing from.
No, I totally. I mean, you guys built the studio. Why it made perfect sense that you would stay there and work.
Yeah, disappearing for a few months kind of became less of an option and less of a something we were going to do. It certainly was never any kind of like, oh God, those records suck. I mean, I remember just from talking when we were there, I remember you commenting on the difference between our diet from when we were 25 to when we were 40.
Yeah, absolutely. It was before. It was just straight pizza and chips, and that was about it. And now, I mean, well, occasionally you guys would cajole Martin into cooking some sort of massive food item, but yeah, no, it was funny that there was some more level of non-destructive eating going on.
I guess we probably couldn't have lived till we were 40 if we'd continued to live like we did when we were young.
Well, clearly everybody had some issues health-wise in between there as a result of what was going on. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Some of which fell. Yeah, I won't get into all that. But in fact, that sounds way more sinister than it was. No. Basically, one of the band got ill on tour, and Dave looked after one of the band. That's what happened. There was no. It kind of sounded like we were in rehab because of pizza addiction or something like that. Which has not happened yet. Although you never know.
It's never too late.
How did you find the difference of actually working with us as a band through the year, with the gap between the years? Was that as different as the difference in the crap we were putting into our bodies, or was it pretty much the same?
I thought it was strangely similar, except maybe some more. I think you guys were more prepared to get to the final result showing up. I think it was a little more shambolic in the past, but it was still pretty organized. I mean, you guys were very well rehearsed. You had a very clear idea what was going to happen before setting foot in the studio previously, but it was an even more clear idea, and even having the opportunity to go back and forth and talk about things beforehand, and sending files back and forth and all that stuff. That was definitely, you guys were more prepared in that way, but it's. You were still, it wasn't like some sort of a predetermined thing entirely. You guys were really interestingly open to making pretty big changes kind of at the last minute, which was awesome.
Yeah. I think weirdly, the more records you make, and I don't know if this is this, I mean, you've made records for tons of other people and obviously made a lot of records that you're into, but the more you make, the less you worry. And I think once you lose worry, you kind of free yourself up to more opportunities. And also, if you're not too worried about something being terrible, and you're willing to risk something being terrible, and occasionally things are terrible, and it's something.
Sure,
and it's,
but that's how you grow.
Yeah, and I often look back and think about things that I really worried about when we first started the band or when we were making our first few records. I just kind of think, God, like there would have been that energy, the energy of being worried about what someone might think about something or how something might sound, that that energy would have been spent on so many better things. So and I think that applies to life in general. I just think as you get older, kind of you lose the, I don't know,
well, you understand, you're going to make another record. You understand you're going to continue to do things. It's not quite it's the same as whether it's a meal or whether it's seeing a sunset or whatever it is you're doing. You just sort of go, okay, that's going to happen again. I don't need to completely panic about every moment of it.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny. I mean, you were talking about us being prepared. In some elements we were, in other elements we weren't. And when we're going, because we're rehearsing now, we're actually playing it. We're doing some shows and we're playing a lot of these songs. All of them, actually.
Great.
We're playing all of them. And
amazing.
I hope so. So much of it, from my point of view, was improvised or largely improvised, and some of it's kind of hard. And actually kind of like, but in a good way. And it's kind of thinking that, I don't know. I think 20 odd years ago, if someone had said, "Yeah, you're just going to make up most of the parts," I probably would have just freaked out. And
right,
but it just happened. And it's fine.
Yeah, but that's the level of experience and everything that you guys have, and that you're, it's like you have an arc of how a song's going to go, and then the particulars of it, that got nailed down while recording, and whether we said, all right, well, that's got the right energy, that this doesn't have the right energy. Even that is a level of preparedness, because you say, okay, no, I can identify that when it happens, and I know when it's not happening, and so that's great. I mean, I think we really captured some awesome moments that were, like you said, that were improvised and or just off the cuff.
Tell us, it's the royal we now. Speak a little bit, Dave, about how you got into recording and how you ended up in this situation where you now make pretty amazing records pretty regularly.
Well, I suppose that's subject to debate, but I don't know. I liked music, and I liked science more or less. I was interested in it, although sometimes maybe not the best math student, but I was fortunate, and I found out my music teacher in high school had gone to Fredonia, where I live now, and the SUNY system, and he knew that they had a recording program there, and he thought, that might be something you would be interested in, and told me about it, and so I researched it and was interested in it, and fortunately got to go and study there. And it just sort of took off from there. I, met some people, fortunately, that ended up. One of the people in Mercury Rev, Sean McCoyak, is from a neighboring town, and I got in a band with him, and then that turned into, we eventually got together through Mercury Rev, and that led to Flaming Lips, and it all sort of kept going from there. So.
And did I remember this correctly? Did you do live sound for the Flaming Lips?
Yes, yeah. One of the guys in Mercury Rev was the tour manager for the Flaming Lips, John Donahue, and he, when they were able to afford a sound man, he knew me through early Mercury Rev work and brought me out on the road, and so I did sound for them for, I guess, maybe a year and a half, but after just a few weeks of working with them, I knew that they were going to go make another record, and I was like, well, I could make your record. And they fell for it, and we made In a Priest-Driven Ambulance together at that time, actually at the college at Fredonia. And it worked out really well, I think, by all accounts, and here we are still working together now. That was in 1989.
That's a long time. That's a long time. And you teach at the college as well, don't you?
Yeah, which is amazing and terrifying and informative. And then humorously, now one of my sons is my student in that program as well, which is.
How's that going?
It's going good. We didn't fight in public, and I learned some stuff from him. He learned some stuff from me, and that was great.
Yeah, I should add that your two sons, going back to the gaps between Rock Action and Every Country's Son, the new record, when we first came, they were tiny children.
Yeah.
And now they're fully grown men.
Indeed, they are. Yes.
Yeah, and they're kind of the same.
I agree.
Which is not any kind of negative at all. It's just more people don't change that much, from when they're small to when they're old. I think like your personality is kind of there, and you just kind of develop more into it rather than completely altered over the years. But yeah, it's really good to see them both doing so well. And
yeah, it's nuts. It is funny how, things about them, even when they were infants, are just still true today. It's very, very, it's something we thought might be true, and now, 20 years or more on, you go, well, yeah, that actually turned out to be the case.
yeah, it's good. It's good. And yeah, I should talking more about your family. We're also big fans of your wife, Mary.
Me too.
Yeah, I don't know how I can involve Mary in this conversation other than to say she's a very unique, interesting, funny person. But yeah, if anyone's ever in Fredonia, they should try and find Mary for a chat. I don't know. I can't really expand beyond that, but yeah, it's a shame that we couldn't work out the headphone situation so we could involve her, because I'm sure she'd correct us on almost everything we said.
I'm sure that's true. Yeah.
So going back to the records, yeah, tell us a little about the experience of making the Low records, because I know we're both big Low fans.
Sure.
And I think when we did our records years ago, you hadn't worked with them yet,
right.
But in the meantime, you made quite a few records with Low.
Yeah, at least 2. Now I've lost track. There was definitely 2.
Yeah. How did you find that experience?
It
that's
was
a band that we've played a lot with. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're really nice people, and really, they're they're sonic explorers. They don't, they're on their own path to do everything that they want to do, and it's kind of all over the map, even though you can sort of always tell it's, you always know it's them, but they always just do something interesting I mean, I'm a fan of all their records, and it's always amazing what you hear coming out of the speakers. It's just that sort of quiet intenseness that's just hard to describe.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I always think about them is, I mean, their singing's obviously amazing and the songs are amazing. Alan's guitar playing, it just blows me away every time I see him. It's just, he's just completely demonic way that he kind of attacks his guitar, and it just always sounds brilliant. Yeah. Such a good band.
Now I'm trying to, I can't remember, is it Black Eyed Snakes? Is that the name of his sort of alter ego band? I mean, what was really weird, I mean, I was a fan anyways, and I liked a lot of their stuff. And then I was at a tape-op convention forever ago in Oregon, and they played, they and Quasi played, and I got to see them both, and that was, and when I saw that performance, I'd already seen Low before, but when I saw that, I was like, oh, it added such a weird depth to everything Low at the same time. I don't know how to explain that very well, but no, I mean, working with those guys is really funny and intense. They came with little kids. At some point, we did a session where then was pregnant, and then she had the baby and came back, and so there was these things where they'd still be doing takes out there, and it's just like barely making a sound, and it finally fades out, and then Alan's like, so how was that? I get back on the talkback, and I've got an infant in here in the control room screaming their head off. I'm like, I think it was good. I'm not really sure. You're gonna have to come in and listen. I don't know. So it's very, very fun.
Yeah, it's good. It's good when life and music kind of coexist, which they always do. But yeah, it's not what people imagine. It's not what I imagine when I'm listening to a record. But I mean, of course, people have got their own everything going on. Everything has to. Things can't stop for a record or a show or anything like that. They always need to continue. Yeah.
Which it's. I mean, you don't think about that stuff like you were talking before when you're 22 or something. It's not, you're in this sort of altered state of everything's about me and what I'm doing while I'm recording or something. But then, after you've made 10, 20 records like you guys have, and you go, oh, well, okay, I'm actually living life while all this is happening.
Yeah.
it can't be mutually exclusive, or something dies.
No. Here's Dominic, by the way. Do you want to see it?
Hello, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Can't complain.
Good.
What are you up to?
Well, besides this podcast, I just finished up. I was just thinking because I just finished up the new MGMT record, but we were doing some overdubs with guitar with the Super Ego pedal, and they were just absolutely mesmerized. Like, oh man, this is the best thing ever. So, yeah.
Dave, you giving away our secrets to other more successful bands?
Yes.
Well, fair enough.
You like to share. That's good. Okay.
That's good.
Right, I need to go for a pee, so I will speak to you soon.
Okay,
Right.
I'm glad Dominic going for a piece now on the podcast. All right, well, Dave, I'll probably better let you go, but this has been a lot of fun. I will talk to you soon and give my love to everyone, okay?
Will do.
All right, bye.
All right, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
And now to the interview I did with Stuart and Barry from the band in Barry's flat in Glasgow. I began by asking them what drew them to working with Dave Fridmann all them years ago.
I think when we were teenagers, we all liked a lot of music that Dave was involved in, especially Mercury Rev. I think all of us liked Mercury Rev, Barry.
One of my first vinyl pieces was Mercury Rev.
So yeah, we all liked Mercury Rev and Flaming Lips as well, which he played with, and definitely he's recorded all the records, or most of the records. So it was when we were doing stuff with Chemical Underground, and I think Delgados had maybe made a record, or were making a record with them, and it was round about the Deserter Songs Mercury Rev record, and we all really loved that. So it was kind of when we realised there was a chance to work with him, it was really exciting, and also a chance to go away to America to record, which at that point I'm probably safe to say we all just thought, well, that's a free holiday. and then years later, when we did Every Country's Home, we were like, that's a really expensive holiday.
It's not cheap.
But through Chemical Underground, we kind of got in touch with Dave, and I remember we had loads of really lofty ambitions for our second record because we weren't that happy with the first one. And I remember talking to Dave about it and saying, we wanted it to be as good as record A and record B, and Dave's quite a dry guy, as you've probably heard, and he was like, well, if you write songs as good as whatever I was saying, the Velvet Underground and Nick Drake or whatever, if you write songs as good as that, now we can make it definitely sound as good as and we're like totally shattered. I think he said the same thing about Martin's drums as well. We wanted to sound like Led Zeppelin 2, and he was like, if you play drums like John Bonham, then it's going to sound like that.
He's very matter of fact, isn't he? Quite dry, very funny as well. He's a funny guy.
So the early days of your relationship with him, like you stayed good friends since. So in the early days of like recording with Dave, what was the experience like then compared to when you went over this time?
I'd say actually the experience this time was more like Come On Die Young than Rock Action, because Rock Action we kind of had a sort of elastic budget, and we didn't really have any kind
Elastic budget.
I don't know how else to put it. I know, we had a lot of someone else's money, and
we'll never see that again.
Slowly, probably recouping at 3,025 or something. So I'd say that Every Country's Son was probably more like Come On Die Young. We had a wee bit more time, but roughly we went in, played the songs and mixed them without any faffing about. I'd say the studio itself's physically expanded. Dave's built another building and got an awful lot more stuff, and I'd say we probably worked on the songs as we were recording a bit more this time. We Come On Die Young, we'd rehearsed. But we demoed that in Glasgow as well as Every Country's Son we demoed in Glasgow too. So there was quite a lot of similarities, apart from us being adults on some level.
don't think we ever recorded an album there in the summer. It was always cold and snowy, wasn't it? When we were there, so you couldn't really go out. Or if you went out, you couldn't go far. So you had to really work.
It was sunny at some points of the Rock Action, because there's definitely photos. Yeah, when Steve Gullick came, the photos are sunny.
Don't know anything about that.
Yeah,
Can't remember.
yeah, that's a podcast in itself. But yeah.
So with the new record, Every Country's Son, was Dave always the one in mind for when you were going forward with making it?
Probably,
I think so.
I think we really wanted to go back there.
And
I think we just really wanted to go back there and do an album, because you can't. The thing about having the studio in Glasgow is it's just there, down the road, and you can easily go, it's 5 o'clock, I'm going home, and become really unproductive and familiar.
Or spend an hour discussing what we're going to get for dinner.
We do that a lot. It's like, I tell you what, Deliveroo's made a fortune off of us, off me anyway. And, but when you're in the middle of nowhere, you really just have to work 12 hours a day, and there's a lot of fun afterwards and during, but mostly afterwards. But you have to focus. You can easily focus on all the work you have to do, because you can't do anything else. There's nothing around there for about 7 miles, something like that.
Yeah,
Nothing.
Even
the walk to there is filled with rabid dogs and wolves.
Trump voters.
It's pretty Trumpy around there. You tend not to go out, and you tend to work hard. So
In your talk with Dave, actually, you spoke about that, and also like the similarities between Brexit and Trump, and that seems to be something that you as a band and also individually are quite outspoken on your social networks about. Why do you feel like that's important?
Just so people know that we're not dicks.
great answer. That's a good one. I can't be that. I'll just shush.
I think I don't know. I don't know if you've got the power to share your pointless inner thoughts with a lot of people, you may as well exercise it.
So when you were up recording, you must have been in the midst of all that at the time.
We weren't watching the news. We weren't watching any TV. Mostly probably because American television is so filled with commercials that it becomes brain rot, and so we just didn't turn the TV on. We just watched films. We worked. Some of us fell asleep in the shower. Fell drunk. Wasn't us. So we were sort of shielded from it, and probably a little bit deliberately, just so that we didn't get distracted.
I actually found, I hadn't thought about it at the time, because when we were recording, because I was probably too busy to notice it, but I was on holiday in America recently, and being asleep for being in a different time difference, like all the kind of negativity about Brexit and the sort of Tory government and everything, missing that on social media was a real relief. Yeah. I might expand my muted phrases to.
That's what I did as well. I did that too.
Did you?
I did the indie ref.
Brexit, everything.
Brexit. I was just like, I need a break.
It's a good idea. I'd never really thought about it, because I did it with Game of Thrones, which is obviously very important too.
More important, some would say.
Yeah, I might do that. I might just have it so that the internet's just pictures of kittens, puppies, and skateboarding. Yeah,
that's what it used to be. And now it's everyone's angry.
Yeah.
Now it's shite.
Can you explain to the folks who will be listening perhaps a little bit about the process of making the record? You said that you were in to record and out again with Dave with a little bit of tweaking here and there. So what was the process like before you got to that stage?
The whole year was spent working towards the record. So we started writing demos individually, me, Dominic and Barry, and did we just set up a Dropbox so everyone could hear the songs we've been doing, and that was probably a period of about 6 months or something.
Yeah, it was a while.
And then we got together in Glasgow. Actually, before that, me and Dominic and Martin had been rehearsing a little bit, because Barry was in Germany and being a new father, so kind of preoccupied with
shit, basically.
Baby poo. So we got together and rehearsed a bit too, and then we all got together in our studio in Glasgow, Castle of Doom, and demoed the songs, which was a good thing to do, because we kind of rethought a few of them, and a few things didn't work as well as we'd imagined, or maybe worked better, and just kind of kicked them into shape a little bit more with Tony Dugan, and so at that point we could play all the songs, which isn't always the case when we go into the studio, to be totally honest. But yeah, we could play them all, and then when we got to Tarbox with Dave, we just set up in a room, and he'd been on this Dropbox as well with the early demos and the studio demos, and he just got us to set up in a room.
He sat behind a desk. I was so nervous when that happened. I was like, this is like an exam.
Yeah, he did.
Like, he just sat and he just looked around, and we badly played songs that weren't very good. He was like, all right. And I think all he wanted to know was, that's a loud one, that's a quiet one, that's got loads of electronics in it.
Yeah.
That's all he wanted to know. So it's like, we'll do the loud ones first in this room, we'll do the quiet ones in the other room, and later on we'll do that was it. It wasn't like an exam at all, but it felt like it.
Yeah.
That sucked, but after it was fine.
Why did you feel that pressure?
I don't know, it's never nice playing. I mean, obviously the less people you play to, the worse it is. You know what I mean? Just like, I remember we played in Sleazy's a while ago for some, just, I don't know why we did it. It was a long time ago now. I don't know why, but it was like, you'd see everyone looking at your fingers, and like, you're right next to everyone, and then you go and play like the Albert Hall, and it's just a bunch of people there, and you don't think about nerves. Not really.
It's kind of like how Stalin felt about death. One death is a tragedy, a million deaths is a statistic.
Aye. It's a bit like that. It's the same. Fucking hell.
With the new record, a lot more vocals feature on the record now. Was that a conscious effort, or did you feel like it kind of needed more, or while you were in the process you kind of...
Probably was conscious this time, wasn't it? I mean, you can answer this.
I don't really know if it was conscious. It was more just the way the songs came out. There was actually more. How many was there? There was
3 or 4.
Yeah, there's 4. There's 2 on the record. One's a B-side and one's a Japanese extra track. It was just the way those songs turned out that kind of sounded like they were ones that would have singing on them. It wasn't that conscious.
Do you remember when you used to listen to those instrumental tracks of indie bands in the 90s, and you'd be like, why did you release this? Did you not have any other songs? It would be like that.
I know. I was kind of thinking a way of saying it.
No,
it's totally true. It's true. It's like if a song is an instrumental song, it needs to have something very focal musically happening, and the songs that we put lyrics on are just a bunch of chords, and then the vocal becomes the main part of the song. So
it's almost like that's how you make music.
That's how you make music with singing, yeah. Which isn't an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to do.
No,
and sometimes it goes horribly wrong. But
it goes already.
It goes very already. You can be misled into thinking it's a good thing to do. My mum thought that was a word.
Misled.
She thought you
could be misled.
You could misle someone as well.
And she's a doctor.
Good God. It's the epitome of
the homage to.
Homage is right. Homage, I'd say that's either or. I say homage is right. It's either or. That's garage. It's not epitome.
No.
Or prologue. That was our thing. I thought prologue was a word.
Prologue? I thought it was gratuitous for years. Which has the word tit in it, which is in itself gratuitous. Anyway, sorry. Carry on. Gratuitous. I still see it. Every time I see that word, I'm like, it says gratuitous.
Is that how it's written down? Gratuitous?
No, I just can't read.
Right.
I'm an idiot.
It's one of those words I wouldn't use in an email. There's words I think and I write in an email and I can't get it right, and I just abandon it and think of a simpler word.
Aye.
I'd say gratuitous is one of those words.
Any adverb?
I'd say the word
Get
very.
rid of it.
It's going to be very in an email from me. That's all I'm saying.
Fucking hell.
Is there any particular themes with the record that you're wanting perhaps people to pick up on that perhaps haven't been picked up on quite yet?
I don't know. We don't really think about things too much while we're doing them. I think we think just in terms of good and bad. According to us, I'm sure other people could probably hear this and go, "It's all fucking bad." But we try and make it good, and all these other things tend to think about maybe after the fact. I've seen a few reviews that I thought were quite, I don't know, had an interesting evaluation that I kind of agreed with, that it's quite a kind of relatively, again, uplifting kind of record, and I think that it is, and I think that it was a lot of fun to make, and I think it maybe kind of sounds a bit fun. I don't know. Again, it's all relative.
Good t-shirt. Sounds a bit fun, this record, doesn't it? Said no one ever.
Funboy 4.
Are reviews something that you pay attention to or that you look at?
Not usually, but for this record, for some reason, I've been laughing them up. They've been so funny, some of them. But mostly the best ones are the ones that you see on like Mogwai websites and stuff like that. And there's just this guy like, can't believe this is like Mogwai Disco. This is Mogwai Disco, and I'm like, I would give this 5 out of 10, and I'm like, that's not bad actually. That's 50% alright.
Said that there was only one song that had any melody on it.
I said this tune. No, he was like, it doesn't have one single melody. Like, it definitely does. It might not be a good melody, and it might not stand.
It's a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, it's a 5 out of 10.
I don't know if it's 5 out of 10 guy. So also, I think making an album with 11 songs that's only got one song with any melody on it's quite an achievement, and it also makes you wonder why we're not in the pages of The Wire more often.
Yeah, it's personal vendetta.
Yeah, it's like 10 entire songs completely devoid of any melody whatsoever. That'd be quite a trick.
Yet they're moaning about it.
Nobody's happy.
Nobody's happy.
Really.
You tend to maybe just take these things in jest when you see them online. I know, Barry, you're quite good for retweeting things.
Honestly, I know when people say I don't care what people think of me, and I sort of believed that about myself, and I wasn't sure about it, but see, recently I do not give a fuck what people think of us. I couldn't care less. And it takes a while to get to that stage, but it is nice. It's like, I don't care what you think. And it's dead funny when people slag you off. It is so funny because it's the kind of stuff I would write about other people. Like, suck. They absolutely suck. And I quite like it when people used to like us and now they don't. And I'm just like, fine. Good. That means that we've probably lost you, but we've probably gained someone else, or maybe more. So...
Was there a period of time earlier in your career that you felt like you had to be people pleasing or felt yourself
really.
into
Not
it?
really, but
I think that's why we've lasted so long, because we've just pleased ourselves, and it's selfish and whatever. But if you start trying to please other people, then you're probably going down the wrong road, and you're not going to end up in a good place. You know.
Yeah, I don't think we were ever particularly into people pleasing, but I'd maybe a bit like Barry, maybe years ago, maybe get a bit more put out of somebody. And I mean, to be totally honest, people are very largely positive about it, so it's not like it happens it's not like it happens a lot, but probably years ago it maybe would have bothered me a wee bit, and whereas now, I mean,
suffice to say that we always look forward to the Pitchfork review.
Yeah.
It's usually like 1.6 out of 10.
Yeah, and an essay about what we should have done instead, which I love that. I love fucking, I love the like wee guy in Chicago telling you what you should be doing. You're like, oh man, I wish I'd thought about that. You're right, man. You're right.
Take it on board. Do that
next time, mate. Next time, mate.
I think I hope this doesn't come across as arrogant, but I think at certain stages of bands' careers, it doesn't really matter what people write about you. No. Not really.
No.
You know, you've got your people who like you, and then people who don't, and that's it. So we're kind of, despite our numerous attempts to sabotage your own career,
still doing okay.
We're still doing all right. It's fine.
So, you speaking about picking, if you might have lost some fans, but you've picked up others. With that in mind, you're going to be heading out on a pretty big tour that'll see you through till Christmas. One of the shows that you're going to be ending with is obviously the Hydro in Glasgow, which is going to be your biggest show to date. So, with that in mind in the album, how do you find making the transition from taking a record such as Every Country's Son that you've worked on in such an insular and kind of controlled studio environment, and then begin to bring that out on the road?
We kind of got thrown in the deep end by doing the whole record at Primavera.
Yeah, I've never done that before.
Yeah,
tricky. That took 4 weeks of rehearsals, didn't it?
Yeah.
It's for 90 minutes of drunk. But it really took a lot of work to get it to that point, and it's the first time we've really been able to play. I mean, really is the first time we've been able to play a whole album just as it is. Usually, I remember it when we did Rock Action. There's so many songs we couldn't play because it had strings or it had all these other things, and now the technology is much better and we can do stuff like that. But this was the first one where, yeah, we could definitely play all the songs. Much to the annoyance of people that just want to come and see us play all the old songs. But
I suppose that's another complaint. People complain you don't play enough old songs, and then a lot of people would likewise complain that you only play a few new songs or whatever. So yeah, it's better just to do what you want.
Doing the Primavera thing, do you think it was perhaps a good idea to kind of force you to?
No, I think we thrive on deadlines and people saying, well, you got to do this by then, whatever. We're good at that. If there was no deadlines, we wouldn't do anything. If someone said, oh, just take your time, we'd be like, okay, see you in 2 years. But we're good. I think it pushes you to get something finished. It's important that we have these like limits and stuff like that.
And in a festival setting, for being the first time that you performed that album start to finish, what was that like?
It was quite. We were nervous, I think, because we hadn't played the songs before, and there was other factors we weren't even sure, because it was only announced on the day. We weren't even sure that many people were going to turn up to hear it, which would have been
mortifying.
It would have been, it would have been a bit embarrassing. But I think it went well, and it was a bit strange because it was so far ahead of the record coming out. But I think it's been a weird one because the record was finished so long ago. We've been sitting on it for ages, and the campaign of letting people know about it and hearing the songs and everything, it's been quite spread out. But I think even though it's felt a little bit frustrating because usually we have a much shorter gap between people hearing it, I think it's been good to kind of spread it out a wee bit as well.
And so kind of building, do you think like this album is perhaps one of the most kind of live ready albums that you've made? Do you think that's just down to technology advances like you said, Barry, or do you think it's...
Yeah, that and just the amount of work we put into rehearsing it. But yeah, it's definitely a technology thing as well.
It was a lot of it was recorded live too. Like, I mean, there's some songs not on this record, but on records before that we've kind of pieced together in the studio and never really went back to and attempted to turn them into live songs, whereas all of these songs were recorded live in the studio. So I think that made it a bit easier as well.
And so do you ever find like any difficulty or struggles kind of encapsulating that sound that you look for in the studio, and then also like see when you come to the Hydro, do you have any apprehensions about how you're going to like take that from the studio and put that there, or do you feel confident that...
We're sort of not that much in control sometimes because you've got a sound engineer doing all that stuff for you. You know, we can only play the songs as what they sound like to us and as well as we can, but there's someone else involved.
Like that gig, I mean, you probably don't know this because it was me and Dominic that stayed out, but pretty much all the journalists in Japan said that that's the loudest gig they've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah. Apparently it was. Was it? Apparently it was mental. Apparently it was properly like people at the back could see their clothes shaking.
I have no idea. It didn't seem that loud to me. That's weird.
Yeah.
So you just don't know?
I have no idea.
No.
Absolutely no idea. In fact, that was what was the first one. Did you mean that to be the loudest gig you'd ever played? Me and Dominic were like, we didn't even know.
Stand-in sound engineer for us, so he's even louder than Kenny. Jesus. That's off.
Aye. But yeah, in the studio actually, it was really loud.
What was that?
It was mental. Yeah.
It wasn't as loud as my snoring, which made Stuart have to move rooms.
Yeah, I slept in the drum room.
My snoring was like... That's what happens when you drink every night when you're bored.
Yeah.
Oh well.
So hats off to Barry's wife. That's all I'm saying. Well done.
So fine, yeah, but the Hydro coming up, what are you looking forward to about having that as your biggest show?
I'm looking forward to watching Ride, to be honest with you. That's one of my favourite bands. It was the first band I ever had a poster of in my room. I was thinking about this last night, so I can't wait. We saw them in Japan, but it's just going to be amazing to see them in Glasgow supporting us. It's mad.
Have you seen many shows in the Hydro?
One. I saw Super Furries supporting Noel Gallagher. I didn't hang around for No Gallagher.
I saw Depeche Mode and Churches.
Was it good?
It was good.
That would be good.
I feel like the sound's actually like really good in there.
Apparently it was shit at the first, but they fixed it. They put some
Baffle in it back.
yeah.
Because someone said it was a bit. They want to see Queens of Stone Age or something.
Yeah, they were doing that like echo thing, but
Yeah.
apparently they've sorted it out. So don't worry, there'll only be 50 people or something there. It'll be an intimate show at the Hydro.
With their shirts flapping.
yeah. Be really loud for those people. Less lawsuits.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Adele.
Yeah.
Is she getting sued?
Well, no, a piece of scaffolding fell on someone at her show.
That would cause you to sue. That would cause me to sue
Well,
someone.
wouldn't her getting sued, surely? But
The Hydro, yeah.
was the Hydro?
Yeah, she was playing the Hydro.
It was
and we
at
got-
the Hydro that happened?
Yeah.
Have they heard how loud we are? What's going to happen? That would be
I
dead.
think that's something not attached to the ceiling properly, rather than her being really loud.
Yeah, I don't think.
I take a fair guess. Sure, she can fair belt it out, but I don't know if it's going to bring bits of the building down.
No, not like Paisley when we played Paisley at Town Hall. Pieces of plaster coming off the ceiling and hitting people. It hit me. There's a bit on my keyboard, big bit of plaster. Mental. The Hydro's new. It'll be fine.
I doubt there's much plaster there.
No. Doubt it. Check that guy. Guitar. don't do it.
These are new windies.
Nah. Guitar, mate. No, you can hear the motor when you open them.
Are these double glazed?
Acoustic glass. Sure.
If I need any windows done.
Windies.
This is the sponsoring the podcast.
Yeah.
Fabulous glazier. Glazier. Great glazier.
So, whilst I have you both here, I want to talk just like business for just a wee second about the label, Rock Action. With your kind of ever expanding and also very diverse signings that you have on the label, most recently the collaboration between Catherine Joseph and Marcus Mackay and James Graham, the Outlines project that they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
What do you look for in artists when you're looking to collaborate with them and sign them to your label?
That we like them.
Yeah.
I mean, that we like them and that they want to be busy, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely true with James and Catherine. You know, they're amazing and they'll do everything they can to let people hear the record. And I think that's definitely true with Sacred Paws as well.
Yeah. People that want to be employed as musicians, not people that want to sit about and put a record out. It's not going to work. Not tour. So yeah, people that want to work.
So I want to talk about Sacred Paws just before we go, because obviously they're signed to your label.
Where are we going?
Before we go.
Is it the start of the week? I hope
Start of
so.
Yeah, so yes.
Please. Yes.
Sure,
Maybe I will see.
So yeah,
After a debrief.
well, exactly. I have to remember which bits to cut out.
Wind it down.
Wind it down over a
The
break.
windows was really boring. Remember that?
Can I make that into an advert? When
It was really terrible. Wish that never happened.
I'm excited though because I've seen your windows now and I'm imagining like I had the guy come and talk to me with the windows and all I could think about was this huge amount of money and I was like, fuck, that's a lot of money. But now I'm like, it's dead quiet. They look quite good.
Quiet.
It's going to be great.
Oh, it's quality. Right.
So yeah, Sacred Paws, another band that are also signed to your label and also the most recent winners of the Scottish Album of the Year award, and will also be joining you on your European tour. Can you talk a bit about how you discovered the band and kind of what attracted you to them?
Was it you?
Yeah, our friend Ewan had said that they were the best band that he'd seen in Glasgow for ages, and loads of our friends. I mean, we knew Ailey a bit from working in Monorail, and yeah, we just saw them, and they're really good, and they play all the time, and they're nice folk. So, but the reaction's been brilliant. People are really, really, really into it, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
I dread to think what they're going to think of us after
Yeah.
a few weeks on the bus.
I hope you like horror films.
And smells. I hope you like smells. Bad ones. Bad smells and stupid games.
Yeah.
They probably won't be up for the naked Game of Thrones because it was all boys. Yeah, we used to get undressed and watch Game of Thrones. Not totally undressed, we'd have our pants on and that, but I could definitely feel someone else's leg next to me watching Game of Thrones. It was just exciting. Zeitgeisty.
How did you get it?
Illegally on the bus. what do we used to call it? Stealing Net or something?
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember how we actually managed to make it appear on the television on the bus.
Because no one knows ever how to work bus television. It's always a
But we just
ordeal.
imagined it. It was like a mirage.
But what I'm saying is that won't happen on this tour, and we're all going to have to.
Also, Game of Thrones is finished.
Yeah, I watched it last night, and it was excellent.
I don't like impersonating a dragon so we work on a podcast.
It's not in real life.
That was quite scared.
It was alright. No one outside could hear because of the quality windows. It just looks like two guys fucking around. Anyway, sorry. This hangover is kicking in, man. I have not. It's in the post. Anyway.
Well, guys,
Yes.
thanks so much
You're welcome.
for today.
Sorry for today. I apologise.
And I'm looking forward to when we meet again next time
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
for the next instalment.
Are you
Should
not
do it
coming to
outside.
Sleazy's?
Are you really going to go to Sleazy's?
I might.
I might get
It's
a pint.
lunchtime.
That's a pint time, innit?
Let's do it then.
Let's do that.
Yeah, let's do it. I like
Right,
it.
done.
Oh, only I can find the keys. Flat.
I hope you enjoyed the first instalment of the Mogwai Podcast. Thanks again to Stuart and Barry for taking the time to chat, and also to Dave Fridmann too. You can find out more about Dave's work by heading to his website, davefridman.com. Mogwai's latest record, Every Country's Son, is out now and is available via their website at mogwai.co.uk, where you will also find a full list of tour dates. Follow the band on Twitter at Mogwai Band, and be sure to hit subscribe to this podcast to keep up to date with all future episodes as they are released.